What's up, beautiful souls? Today, I want to start with a little bit saying that Tony Robbins always says it. And I've heard it so many times, and I agreed with him, but like now I'm finally starting to understand like what he really meant. And more importantly, like why it's so important. And what he would always say is proximity is power. And so there's like a saying that says, you literally become the frequency, the habits, the beliefs of the 5 closest people that you hang out with the most in life. And I started to understand, like he also says about pattern recognition, right? And these CEOs and these people who are making a really big difference in the world, one thing that I noticed about them, like they always say it, is they hire people who are smarter than them. And I heard it and I realized and I recognized the pattern. But then like now I'm starting to really understand it. Like, oh, wow. In order to elevate, you tell me who you're with and I'll tell you who you are. A chain is only strong as its weakest link. So it takes humility to be the dumbest person in the room. It takes humility or teachability to hire someone smarter than you. It takes humility and money to elevate. And it also takes, more importantly, like a sacred why that is strong enough, a mission, a purpose, a reason, a leverage point to motivate you to learn how to hire an A player, to learn how to get yourself into rooms with people who are smarter than you, how to, right? There's it's a humbling process to know and to stay consistently teachable and honest with yourself. And this is a process that is required anytime you want to elevate out of the box or the salary range or the label or, to jump in life, personally, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially. It's all connected. And so proximity is power. Tell me who you're with and I'll tell you who you are. And I don't believe that statement 100% because, I'm very familiar with people who are wildly successful, who are wildly making a difference and impact in the world, who continue to hang out with their childhood friends, even though their childhood friends haven't taken that step. So I'm not like saying that that's 100% all the time, but generally speaking, it's true, right? And there's psychology experiments that literally say just by spending 10 minutes with someone, you're going to take on aspects of that person's personality. So tell me who you're with and I'll tell you who you are. Proximity is power. And this is why like certain people will literally go to retreats and events to put themselves into situations around people and environments where they're just by being in that environment, they're going to elevate. Evolution is one of the main reasons and purposes of existence is to grow. And I've been saying this so many times, and I'll say it again, the next 1 to 3 years are the greatest opportunity that has ever existed in all of humanity's history ever. And proximity is power. And yes, in this frequency fence, 9 to 5, doing things the way you've always done it, hanging out with the exact same people, like in the movie Good Will Hunting, where, Matt Damon he's a genius. He's got this gift, but he's in Boston, does the same thing with the same friends every single week. He's read every single book, but he's never experienced the edges of his growth because his intellect has gotten him so far. And finally, he falls in love with a girl. And she challenges him to come out of his comfort zone. And he's not willing to. In fact, anytime someone challenges him to come out of his comfort zone, he uses his intellect to attack them. He's not willing to grow. He's not willing to experience. He's not willing to stop playing small until the girl leaves. Until he meets Robin Williams, who refuses to appease him and to tell him what he wants to hear. Who refuses to allow him to play small. Who refuses to allow him to use his intellect as an excuse for why he is not utilizing his potential. And he keeps it real with him. And he checks his blind spots. And he says to him, come on, bro. You talk about the Sistine Chapel like you've been there. You talk about love like you've experienced it. You've read every single book and you have crazy mathematical skills, but you've never sat with someone that you love and felt as they with her and held their hand, or you've never even gone out of Boston to chase the girl that you love. And so proximity is power. Tell me who you're with and I'll tell you who you are. Find your edge. Feel the discomfort. Expand your soul. Expand your dreams. Expand your experiences. Be true to you and show up for yourself, for your family, for your company, for humanity. Show up and shine and be disciplined and have people around you who check your blind spots and grow and evolve. And in the process, help people remember and do the same. All right, so we're going to dive into this week's Q&A.
All right, our first question. What's the truth about burnout?
Burnout is not laziness. It's the sound or signal of a soul that's been ignored. So before you hit burnout, that quiet voice inside, the direct cognition, the sound of your superconscious mind will continuously give you impressions, intuitions, feelings to slow down. It will all come around. But if that entrepreneur and that little child has been programmed and conditioned to believe as a young child that it needed to achieve a certain amount or a certain goal or a certain recognition in the world to receive love from the father wound, it will continue to push, it will continue to try, it will continue, and it will burn out. And the nervous system will fry, and the adrenals will burn. And that's burnout. But if you pause and you align with your soul, you align with your core rhythm, the Father of the universe's rhythm, and you listen, it will guide you into realignment with your soul, which is your purpose. And that's when the saying, you'll never work another day in your life. Because you don't even have to try. It's effortless. You're in purpose, with purpose, on purpose, aligned to your subconscious mind, aligned to your soul. So the key is to catch the signal and to listen to your soul before you burn out. Real quick, doctors, healers, health professionals, you do not need another certification. What you need is a signature program and the right system to help you scale it. In a free webinar, I share with you the free AI tool that helps you build your 8-week signature course and the exact playbook that I use to impact millions of souls and build a 7-figure business. So if this resonates, in the show notes below, you can watch the free webinar. I'll see you inside the free webinar where we will literally build your signature course together. Check it out.
Were antidepressants ever meant for life?
Antidepressant drugs were meant to be bridges. And let me repeat that. These drugs, their drugs, were meant to be bridges, not permanent. The problem is that the system tried to turn them into permanent solutions. And so impermanence is the rule of all of life. Change is the only constant. And so when someone takes an antidepressant permanently, it stops to work. And instead of fixing a chemical balance, it causes a chemical imbalance. And 70-something% of people who take it for long periods of time begin to have sexual dysfunction, shutting down the most powerful creative force in the world. Not only that, it begins to lobotomize the third eye. Jesus said, if your eye is full of light, your whole body will have sight. So it literally numbs you. So you cannot see, you cannot feel, and you become like a zombie who's able to function in a sick society because you're literally not feeling. And it never fixes the root cause. So no, antidepressants were not meant to be permanent solutions. They are temporary band-aids to numb you enough so that you can actually begin to go into the permanent solution, which is in the invisible world. Thoughts, words, beliefs, and attitudes and frequency.
What's the science behind psychedelics?
Science is finally beginning to catch up to what mystics have been saying for thousands of years. If done in the right setting intention with the right facilitator, psychedelics, from where the word psyche comes from, means soul, will reconnect you to the soul, which is what Freud called your superconscious mind, which only has your best interest in mind, which many people will oftentimes say, I felt like I was coming home. Because you are. You are reconnecting with your psyche, with your soul, which is your home frequency.
Can AI heal someone?
AI can mirror your pain, but it cannot replace genuine human connection. Authentic connection is the resurrection. So when a human being holds your hand, when a human being puts their heart on your heart and breathes together 3 times, there's a interconnection, an authentic connection, a cohesive power of the universe, which is called love, Love, which begins to release authentic dopamine, which begins to naturally rebalance serotonin better than Prozac, better than Lexapro, better than Xanax, which begins to signal to the nervous system and the cells that I am not alone. And literally, I've seen people through genuine human connection snap out of depression in one moment, the moment you fall in love. Love, love is all I need. And I'm Dr. Lee, and I'm prescribing you a daily dose of love. So AI can never replace genuine human touch and connection, which is the answer.
You believe consciousness doesn't end when the brain does. As a scientist, what convinced you?
The brain is not the source of consciousness. The brain is a receiver of consciousness. Consciousness forms the brain so that it can experience 3D. And once you understand that, everything about death changes because you realize you're not your brain, you're not your body. You are the consciousness which has downstepped into the body to experience itself through the senses. And once you realize this, you realize that feelings will come and go. Thoughts will come and go. Experiences will come and go. But you are the I am presence, experiencing, feeling. You are eternal. And once you realize and remember this, then 99% of all psychiatric conditions disappear. Because 99% of every single psychiatric condition is people identifying with their thoughts as if they are their thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You are the eternal consciousness experiencing, thinking, feeling. And once you realize and remember that, you begin to be able to experience, feel, and think and be a human being without attaching your identity to a limited body or brain. And 99% of all 3D scientists have never experienced their multidimensional self. Therefore, they're saying, hey, consciousness comes from the brain. Well, the truth will always eventually emerge. And the truth is that you're far more than your brain. You're not more than your thoughts. You are eternal source consciousness field having a human experience.
If a human being is multidimensional, not just a brain and a body, how does that change the way that you treat a patient?
Imagine a doctor who could only see your skin and try to treat your entire body from that limited perspective. That's literally how most of modern medicine is functioning. They're seeing the body, but they're not seeing the soul. And this is why 99% of all Western conditions never actually have a cure. Because the cure is in the invisible world. Thoughts, words, beliefs, attitudes, frequency. And when you connect with your superconscious mind, it sends the right thoughts, words, attitudes, and beliefs. So if you want to find a good doctor, find a doctor when you leave that office, you have a changed attitude.
Is there a connection between our DNA and our mental health that goes beyond genetics?
Your DNA is like a piano. You have far more influence over the music you play than what you've been told. Every thought, word, belief, attitude, word you speak, emotion is literally playing the piano. And it's communicating with the intron potential DNA scientists used to call junk because they couldn't see it. And your thoughts, words, beliefs, attitudes, and frequency plays this piano, which sends a message to the double-stranded helix, DNA, which codes for proteins, which are based upon the thoughts, words, beliefs, attitudes, words, and frequency that you literally just played. And you get to choose in any moment what notes you want to play. It's like in the book, Man's Search for Meaning, when he says you can take from a human being their food, you can take from them their house, you can take from them everything. But the last thing you cannot take from a human being is their attitude. And you get to choose what song you want to play. Uni means one, verse means song. And you are playing a unique frequency every single time. And you get to choose based on your thoughts, words, beliefs, and attitudes and frequency.
When science and spirituality finally agree, what's the first thing about mental illness we'll completely rethink?
Yeah, I remember when I was in science and spirituality are exactly the same thing. Let me repeat that. Science and spirituality are exactly the same thing. It just takes science thousands of years to catch up to what spirituality is saying. So I remember, in general chemistry class, my chemistry teacher wrote a circle with, it said science, and a completely separate circle, and it said spirituality. And he said, these are separate things. And I raised my hand as a college freshman, and I said, no, you're wrong. They're the same thing. And the class kind of laughed. But literally, if the science and spirituality are in the same circle, and when that circle begins to overlap, that's when disease ends. Because the truth will set you free. And the truth is that science and spirituality are the exact same thing. What is even spirit? Where does the word spirituality even come from? Spirit is an ether or gelesic radiation on the unmanifest side of creation, which Jesus called the Holy Spirit, which literally infuses and downsteps into all of creation. And so when spirit merges with physical science, physics, it re-spiritualizes matter. And in spirit, there is no disease. So think on that. Once you reintroduce your spirit, eternal etheric radiation, into your physical body and re-spiritualize matter, all disease cannot exist. So the separation of spirit from matter is what causes disease. Contemplate that.
For someone listening tonight who feels broken, what's one thing they can do before they go to sleep?
Before you close your eyes tonight, put your hand over your heart and say this one sentence. I give permission to my higher self to show me who I really am. Say that from the bottom of your heart and watch what happens.
How can someone regulate their nervous system without an app, a prescription, or spending a single dollar?
Tension is who you think you should be. Relaxation is who you are. Nervous system coherence depends on relaxation. So as you deprogram every single program which tells you who you should be, you begin to relax into who you really are. And in that state, your nervous system relaxes into receptivity. And receptivity is the first step of enlightenment. You already are who you've been looking for. You just need to unlearn everything your nervous system thinks it should be.
If someone remembered they were a sovereign soul instead of a broken patient, what would change?
Everything changes the moment you stop asking, what's wrong with me? And you begin to ask, who am I really? Ask the right question and you'll get the right answer. You are made in the image and likeness of God. You are who you've been looking for. And the moment you begin to ask, who am I really? And you give permission for your higher self to show you, that's when you remember who you are. And all suffering stems from forgetting who you are. And self-realization is the greatest gift you can give to humanity. And it starts with the question, who am I really? All right, beautiful souls, thanks for joining on this episode. Hope you have a beautiful week, guys. Go for it. All right. See you next week. Peace.